All right, artificial intelligence. We started this segment, I think about 8 to 9 months ago, and it's become one of our most popular. And the reason for that is because people want to know about new technology. But one of the concerns is all these different areas where AI is being utilized. So here's a screen with Fox Sports News saying we're going to show you highlights, and they're going to be more sophisticated because they're going to have AI. And we have the modeling industry basically being replaced by AI-generated models. AI in our smart homes. I certainly have a smart home with a lot of AI in it. This young child seeing a visual projection from an image, learning about the circumference of the world, artificial intelligence in agriculture. And I even put this article here about Microsoft exiting the board at OpenAI. So there's already a lot of jostling at the top of the feed chain here of the trillion-dollar companies. So it is absolutely an exploding industry. And guess what? There are more than just the good guys that know about this. The bad guys know too. And many of you have said, what are we doing to protect ourselves in this age where the internet was already scary? All right. But with these cyber attacks, you can go to the FBI site. I have a picture of that on the screen here, and they have a whole category on cyber crime. Here's the major cases, how you can protect yourself. Well, that wasn't enough for me to share this with you. I wanted to bring on an expert. The person that I have wanted to bring on is so busy doing what he's doing. I'm so honored that he made time for us tonight. And here he is. John Fatten is a solutions engineer with SentinelOne, one of the premier companies in the cybersecurity industry with more than 2 decades of experience in corporate security. He focuses on providing technologies that best meet the latest challenges presented by global threat actors. So today's landscape, obviously ever changing. We've talked about this. There's just a whole lot that we need to do to prepare ourselves for what is up ahead. And joining me now from his Chicago office, John Fatten from SentinelOne. John, thank you for being here with us at CB3 Live. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in this. Did you have an interest in technology, or did you have an interest in security? Which one led for you, or neither?
Yeah, it was a strange start for me, but I got where I'm at now. Actually, I started out in finance, accounting, and I had a brief 5-year career in that before I said adios to that. I didn't want to deal with numbers. I wanted to deal with people and other things. So, part of that is I really needed to be around other challenges in that regard. So I actually spent about 9 years in host-based forensics. So if you think of various crime shows that are out there, like, I don't know, CIS, investigators walking
FBI,
out of homes. Yeah, they all walk out of the house, right? And they've got a laptop. Used to be a much bigger laptop. Now they're smaller. Underneath their arm and all that. So I supported organizations, or I should say solution providers, that provided technology to law enforcement as well as corporate entities. So that was my deal. I got to travel quite a bit, got to meet a lot of high-level law enforcement agencies in Turkey, Australia, you name it, all over the place. So
wow.
And then,
so international client base, because you said some things that kind of triggered even further questions, and we knew this would happen. So international client base, but you have corporate clients, and of course, we didn't really talk about the difference between that and the needs of law enforcement. I mean, that's a pretty big.
It's a different
field.
world. I mean, corporate obviously it doesn't necessarily end up in a courtroom as law enforcement always will or typically will. But the fact is, there's tools for that, for them to gather evidence and then to secure that evidence so that it is what they say forensically sound, so that it meets specific, tests, so that it can be adjudicated properly. And then after that, I really worked for a number of different solution providers in that space. So that included RSA, Cisco, really on the cloud security side.
Sure.
And I worked with a couple different endpoint, we call them endpoint vendors. Think about AV or antivirus. We used to call that, there were so many of them, it was like a fight in a phone booth.
The
Uh,
McAfees and Bit Defenders of the world, that kind of
yes,
thing.
and that's really consolidated now. There's only really a handful left, and that's because of evolution, right? You've got what once was signature-based technology to solve for any type of known Trojan or other types of malware out there.
Sure.
Required a signature. You find the signature. You distribute the signature on a weekly basis. It was kind of a whack-a-mole game, and then that's kind of given by the wayside, right?
You're
The
almost
attackers get
always
better.
on defense in that regard.
You are, and the attackers get faster, and so it's a cat and mouse game, and it was really kind of it needed better evolution. And so what has evolved in sort of this next generation AV, if you want to call it that, is really an introduction into or a leveraging of artificial intelligence around that, and that would include things like machine learning, neural networks in that case, and I'll get into some other things that we're doing today
Cool.
in a little bit. But that's kind of where that evolution has happened.
So when you started, there was no AI, and cybersecurity meant something very different. It was probably just called corporate security because the whole cyber came in with the internet and technology and all that. So how do you sustain this interest? I would think it'd be very compelling, but we'd like to hear, how it drives you.
Well, maybe I have an interesting answer for that, but I would say that certainly my curiosity and then an insanely fast level of change is really what drives me in that. So I believe that my career may have gotten me somehow, may have resulted in a little bit of ADHD on my part. But the fact
Sure.
is, we're driven. We have to, know the landscape, know the attacker to some degree. There's really a lot of that. I'm not alone in this business. There's so many other folks that are in the security profession. But really, I think I go to work every day, and I know you might hear the term cyber war. We're in a cyber war, and now we got an
Sure.
election coming up. So you want to see some things happen? It will. Just wait. The fact is, it's good versus evil, right? I'm defending. I'm on the defense
Absolutely.
side, and there's attackers on the other side of it. So, we've gone from you mentioned the internet 30 years ago, right? We had
Right.
what was called script kiddies back then, right? They all wanted to break into the bank or whatever, and it's
Exactly.
hey, look what I did! I got in. But then that's moved into today. It's organized crime of different sizes, and it's also state-sponsored threat actors out there, right? So you can imagine sort of why that exists. These individuals or organizations are in the known countries that you would expect, right? They're never going to be prosecuted because, in those countries, law enforcement really doesn't care if there's an organized group that's
Or they're hostile
collecting
to the
information.
United States,
Yeah,
right? And they're happy to
yeah.
see someone take us down.
Or just take money from us, right? So it's a very
Sure.
lucrative type of function. And if you think about it, we have an organization, we got office buildings. Some of these state-sponsored organizations do the same thing, right? Some of them are almost like corporations, right? The larger organized crime attack families. And
Hmm.
so those threat actors, they evolve as well. And when they extract money from a victim, that money goes into their R&D. So it's like a software company, if you want to think about it that way.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that. What about like a utility company? I mean, that's another potential client, right? Commonwealth Edison or Duke Energy or somebody like that. We have this
Well,
fear that we read about in the media that, one day the water's not going to come on because the system's been hacked. Is that a real
yeah,
possibility?
there's a lot of regulations around those organizations, what they must do, the controls they have to put in place, those types of things. But they are a major target, right? Any critical infrastructure, healthcare, right?
Sure.
Or any place. Think about a healthcare, right? Why would healthcare be a target for threat actors? The reason is because it's critical care. They're busy. They have to serve their patients,
Hmm.
and if there's any downtime, they're likely to pay whatever's being extracted from them, right? Whatever's being asked. So
Right.
they want to get back on their feet as fast as possible. Education.
Ransomware we read about. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So those are some of the industries that I think are hit quite often, but there's no one is immune to it, quite frankly.
What are some of the recent attacks that you're able to discuss with us? Obviously, I'm sure some of these are still ongoing investigations, as the FBI and the shows say on TV we can't discuss, but maybe there's some that you can.
Yeah, I would say that I'm going to share with an example here, a very recent example that you can all read about. It's actually amazing to me, and it's right down the street here in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. That's where it came from. But I'll tell you, if you had any difficulty buying a car in the last 2 or 3 weeks, or heard about any issues, there was in fact, it's still not completely resolved yet, but there's a company called CDK, and their job, or what they do, their core competency is really building, I call it transactional documentation for the auto dealership industry, right?
Sure.
Which only represents about 2% of GDP, by the way. So when you take that down or impact that for 2 to 3 weeks, that has a major impact, right? They had 15,000 auto dealerships impacted by this.
Oh my gosh.
So CDK, look it up. It's widely known out there. There was a small Russian group. I wouldn't say not too small, but they came from a variety of other Russian attack threat actors. It's called Black Suit Gang. So they all have a different name and they do things. But in this particular case, they locked files. They got in pretty easily, I believe, and then essentially they demanded tens of millions of dollars in ransom. I don't know what they got. I know CDK paid something, but I don't know what that was negotiated to. But that's just the top of the iceberg.
So when we see these shows, this stuff really happens, is what you're telling us.
Every day. You can read it all the time, right?
So how does a company protect itself? And I know that you're at the corporate level, John, and as you said, legal entities and law enforcement. But for us as consumers, you always hear change your password, use a lot of gobbledygook in the string, use 2FA. What else is there that we can be doing or to be aware of with the companies that we're hiring to work for us, banks, whatever, to ask when we're opening an account, hey, do you do this? Because we just heard from this security expert and he says you should be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think passwords have to go away, quite frankly. But, organizations themselves, they deploy. If you look at larger organizations, they already have, a deep bench, typically a deep bench of security professionals, although they're rare to get, hard to find and fill
Sure.
Openings that are out there to get the skill sets necessary. But the fact is, there's a lot of different layers of security that they have to deploy. I think financial services organizations are pretty well, very mature, I guess, in that regard.
They're a top level target because that's where the money is, obviously.
Not immune, but again, they have to watch that constantly. So it's consistent vigilance on that, and then, like I say, there's a lot of resources in this industry where you have to understand who the threat actors and evolving technologies, how do we defend against that. It's layered security, and that means a lot of different things on the network side, as well as protecting we call it endpoints, but there's been a big evolution from computing on servers and clients to really the cloud, right? Everything's transitioned to the cloud today. So, you have a lot of development that's done there. Sometimes security is overlooked. And so that's a new target for some of the threat actors. And so, it's a constant battle.
If you guys have a question for John, go ahead and type it in the chat box because there's about a 30-second delay. So everyone wants to know more about AI and how to protect themselves, et cetera. I've wondered why we aren't, we have the visual retina scanning on our phones. Why do we need passwords if we have retina scanning and then another form of 2FA, which, these little authenticator apps, et cetera? I mean, again, I know this probably isn't an area that you deal with because you're dealing with corporate security, but as opposed to individual. But that seems really obvious. Shouldn't we all be using 2FA and all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't access any resources within my company's network without providing two-factor authentication, right? So that means I
And
do
one of
have
them's
to,
retina, right?
or fingerprint,
Sure.
absolutely. So it's either biometric or it's a separate application that's doing verification on top of my password.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a lot of great material. Anybody got any questions? Type them in. Where do you see things going 5 years from now? I mean, how will AI affect your industry? And frankly, how will it affect the bad guys? They have to be just the gap between the technology being introduced, the good guys using it, and the bad guys discovering it and using it against the good guys. Isn't that timeline narrowing as there are probably a lot more people entering the,
I think it is.
Yeah, the bad guys?
I think we can demonstrate that we've been very effective at adding AI models to do prevention on specific assets within an organization. And so some of that is AI driven. It needs to be AI driven because you can't, back in the signature days when people were doing those types of defenses, there's no way you can react quick enough, right? The attacks are coming way too fast. So you have to use an AI model to be able to prevent that. Those are available today. Secondly, it's really more along the lines of generative AI. How's that going to work in environments? So now, we've introduced a generative AI model or application within our customer base that allows our customers to essentially search for any threats within their environment by simply asking almost like a generative AI question. So any natural language question, it funnels out and grabs whatever it can, brings it back, and provides more information and more conversationally to help drive an investigation. So it actually up levels the investigators that are out there. So a new level 1 analyst can be very effective at looking at things that might be dwelling in an environment.
So, and I'll finish with this one, but most of us in the retail world that are in small business are getting tons of emails every day. And the phishing, PHISH, right? We all know what that is.
Yep.
It seems that if we could install some sort of AI attachment to our client, not even on the server side, because we can't control the server side that's being pushed to us, but when we pull from the server to get email, and you guys, it's a little techy, but it's important. What can we do to have more of those just get removed from our inbox so we never have to sit there and make a decision on them? Because I'm really, really careful, but I came close this week. No, that's got to be good. And of course, you right click on the URL and no, that's not from the company. And the little lock was even on there. I mean, these bad guys are starting to use secured servers, right? I mean, this has got to make your job tougher.
Right. You definitely have the awareness, right? So that's number one. We got to be aware of
education,
phishing attacks. Those attachments, they lead to harm. There's ways to deal with that today, though. You still have to be vigilant on what you're clicking on. But with some of the protections in place, if you have those working for you, and there's I would say Defender might be an inexpensive first start in that. Some of the older AV solutions, I would throw them right out because I don't think they're going to help you in a whole bunch.
We moved everything in our office to Bitdefender. I think it's especially good compared to some of the older ones, as you're saying.
Yeah, that's really more SMB related for sure. And there are tools out there. Everything's got to fit within a budget as well, right? So.
I know you guys are a corporate supplier, but if many of our clients on the phone want to learn more about AI, I think I've seen some white papers on your site or some PDFs. I mean, they can find you guys at SentinelOne, right? Ticker symbol S if you want to follow them. But do you have some general educational PDFs out there they could download and look at, or?
Yeah, it'll make your head spin a little bit.
That's what I figured.
There's a lot of things out there. There's videos that probably explain a lot of things. Great blog posting, by the way, we have out there. So that blog page would be great to look at. So just go to our webpage, look at resources, go to blogs. It's fascinating to see, what's going on in the world today.
Well, I will spend some more time there and add it to my own brand new podcast blog. And thank you, John, so much for sharing this with us and encouraging us. We will beat the bad guys, right? This story has a happy ending.
I gotta keep a job, man. So
Yeah, exactly. All
gotta
right.
help them too.
Thank you. Let me
All right,
see.
thank you.
Did I miss anything? Office writing scenarios? Yes, I get it. Okay. Steve, thanks for those comments, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time as this field continues to evolve, John. Take care.
Great.
God
Thanks, George.
bless.